Aloha, you beautiful people. Welcome to Laughingman's Kitchen. Um, you're probably watching this on Facebook. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to build it up a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to tell you a story. I told you before about how I became the Laughing Man. So this is about more my, when I, maybe like the 90s or something, when I was started going around as Laughing Man at rainbow gatherings. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about that. You know, so this is my history in that regard, right? His story, right? I think of our past lives as, you know, in our own life, right? You know, my 4 years high school, 4 years college, 4 years in the military, you know. So this is kind of my time period, you know, 10 something years when I was doing a lot of traveling around in my van and going to rainbow gatherings, okay? So how I discovered the rainbow gatherings was I was living like a communal house, you know, really cheap rent, about 8 people or something, in Atlanta. And I remember seeing a flyer on the local health food store, the old bulletin board, you know, people put a flyer on the bulletin board, for like a gathering at the rainbow picnic in the park. So I went there, and I, you know, still got friends from, you know, that I knew from Atlanta, those Atlanta days, you know. But I found out there was going to be a national gathering in Alabama, which was just a couple hours away, right? So I was like, wow. And to give you a little backstory, okay, Rainbow is very special. It was started in the 70s, okay, where these two kind of communities out west decided to have a gathering for world peace and healing. And they put out flyers all over the world, January 1st through the 4th, Strawberry Lake, Colorado. And like 20,000 people showed up, right? And it was just supposed to be, you know, and the culmination was the prayer for peace on July 4th. But it was just supposed to be a one-time event, but someone said, next year in Utah. And then it, you know, it spiraled from that, right? So the one thing about Rainbow, and this is like hippie Rainbow, right? It's always free. If charging money, it's not a rainbow gathering, right? It's always free, and it's all usually in the remote nature, right? So there's no electricity. It's not like a Burning Man thing, right? There's no electricity, okay? So it's always, so you gotta love camping, okay? So it's kind of like hippie Rainbow, okay? People say, welcome home, you know, welcome home, you know. I think that, anyways, it used to be like Vietnam vets. It was one of the first guy, you know, people that came to the rainbow gathering, so they would use that phrase. But anyway, I decided to go to the gathering in Alabama, and I remember my first morning hiking in from, I came in the back entrance instead of the front entrance. And normally you have to hike a long way to go into the gathering because they don't want really people bringing in their beer coolers or anything. They want to keep the alcohol out. And I remember this one brother, I think he just had a sarong or something. He's just banging his drum on the trail going in. And we didn't say a word, we just hugged each other. And then, you know, he went out and I kept going in. And when I get there, I remember like this, you know, it maybe it just rained, so the steam is coming up, you know, they're cooking in the kitchen. And you could just hear those drums, you know, boom, ba boom, boom, boom. You know, people that just have guitar or maybe, you know, djembes or something, you know, hand drums. And it was just a magical experience, you know. I remember walking around. At one point, I see these guys, all these people naked, covered in mud, you know, just having fun. So I'm like, God, that looks fun. So I took off my clothes and got naked and started walking around covered in mud. And at one point, I turned the corner. And I think there were some Alabama state troopers who were walking. And I was like, okay, maybe I better put my clothes on. And yeah, most people are not naked at rainbow gatherings, okay. But anyway, that was my first experience at Rainbow, you know. And I've been to many, you know, July 4th, you know, big gathering. They're usually out west because maybe there's 10,000 people or something. 20,000 could be a lot of people, right? And but my most special gatherings are smaller gatherings. Like there's one called pt.2 in the Southern Appalachians. You know, just like one kitchen. The big gatherings will have like 5 to 10 kitchens or something. Tea camps, all sorts, yoga camp, all sorts of camps, right? So anyway, I'm from the Southeast, right? Originally from Atlanta. So you know. And I was kind of like the Native Americans for a while, you know, on my van days. I've had many vans, you know, in my life. And so, yeah, the Katua gathering up in the Appalachian Mountains, and I'd go down in the winter to go to the Florida gatherings, usually in the Ocala National Forest or the Osceola National Forest. You know, one of my favorite memories in the Osceola National Forest, I remember for about a year there, I lived in a teepee. Actually, I had a teepee. I had a friend who made teepees. So I had like bamboo poles, teepee. And I remember setting up my teepee in the Osceola National Forest. And like at one point, I'd be, hey, Laughingman, can we use your teepee for a ceremony? Yeah. I ended up having like 14 people in my teepee, and we were doing like a special tea ceremony, right? And that was a magical night. I don't know, just singing songs in language I never even heard of, you know. Just really special moments, right? And then you know, I really started going out west for the first time. I'd go to gathering in Arizona, and I remember that was special. Like I remember after the gathering there, I think of the gathering when I was going there, like it was actually dry, like it was on a fire ban. So like, yeah, you can't have fire at a gathering. That was really intense, right? And supposedly, I wasn't there when it happened, but like they actually did like a rain dance to have bring rain to this remote part in some whatever it was, you know, national forest in Arizona. And actually the whole state, it only rained in that one little spot. So they actually got rain so they could have fires there. But I remember after that gathering, there was a bunch of Rainbow family who went to I think it was the Navajo. Maybe it was the Hopi tribe. I can't remember. But it was like we were supported for a Sundance ceremony there. And that's part of my, you know, during this period too. Because Rainbow, one thing about Rainbow, it's very beautiful, you know, community, but it's kind of like flowers or mushrooms. You know, they come up beautiful for a couple weeks and then they die, right? You know, and that's kind of like you see all these tents of the gatherings, you know, at the peak, and then it's over, you know. You know, maybe smaller gathering only lasts 2 weeks. The big gathering is supposed to last, you know, maybe 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and that's it, right? And you have cleanup and all. So it's not really sustainable as far as your long term, like staying in the national forest or whatever. Especially out west because it's just so cold, right? Living in the remote national forest, right? But anyway, it's really beautiful. And I mean, I really, part of my life, I remember I would just travel around in my van. And I remember, you know, good old mom, she saved all these letters I used to write. And I remember reading these letters last time I went back to the U.S. and it was just, you know, I was so happy, you know, talking about, you know, I'd come down and visit in a couple weeks or something. I was up in the, you know, North Carolina mountains, you know. But, you know, this part of my life, I mean, it's kind of unique here. I'm here now. I've lived in the same house for almost like 14 years or something. But before, like I never stayed anywhere more than a year or two, right? I don't know, something about me was always traveling, right? And it was just, you know, and one thing about a van, right? It's like a home on wheels, right? So yeah, you can, you know, go wherever you want. So I could take my, you know, van out to, you know, Arizona or Missouri or wherever, right? And not only that, I mean, I've actually just had a motorcycle before. I remember once my dear friend, Ed Gaston, beautiful, my best friend from high school and all, passed away. But I remember once I was working with him, like in his landscape company. I had to have different jobs too, you know, when I was traveling around, you know, carpentry, or for a while I was a massage therapist. I'm a trained masseuse in Hot Springs, North Carolina spa, you know. But anyway, with Ed, I was doing landscape with him, and then it's like, I knew the gathering was in Oregon. I really wanted to go. So at the last minute, I'm like, Ed, I gotta go, you know, pay me up. And I remember taking my motorcycle this 3 days across America, and I got there like July 3rd, right before the big, you know, every July 4th there's a big prayer for peace. Everybody holds hands and does an om, you know, like a silent prayer for world peace. So that was really beautiful, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm just saying there's a period of my life where I was the laughing, you know, the thing about rainbows, you can use different names or whatever, you know, Riverman, Laughingman, Uncle Bill, Hugger, you know, people have names, right? You know, so for so many people just knew me as the Laughingman, right? That's why my Facebook name is still Jeffrey Laughingman, right? It's kind of a spiritual name for me, right? And yeah, it was just a really special time in my life, traveling around, so many special memories, so many good friends, you know. And the thing about, like I said, the gatherings only last a little bit, and then, you know, most of my life, you know, was either, you know, spent, you know, living place for a year or two, or I'd travel to different communities too, you know, intentional communities. I mean, maybe that could be a whole other video talking about my experiences at different intentional communities and all. I don't know. But basically, yeah, my last gathering, I guess, is, I guess, maybe you know, I had this beautiful van. My stepfather's friend had kind of gifted it to me. It's like an old van. It did get great gas mileage. We had wood panels, bed in the back. Beautiful. I remember going up there, I guess the Michigan gathering, early 2000s or something. And after that, when I left that gathering, I had like 7 people in my van. A dog, teepee poles on the, roof. And I went out west, right? Or, we after the gathering in Michigan, we kept going west. And like 2 of my good friend brothers, they ended up staying like in South Dakota. We went and stopped at like a powwow, a Native American powwow. And then by the time I got to the Pacific Ocean, I was the only one in my van. Different people dropping off. And that's a whole other story. I ended up in LA and, taking off the back or selling my van and going to Hawaii, with just a backpack. But, so many good memories, man. I really should write these down before I start my video. But anyway, I just wanted to share, there's a whole part of my life, right, where for maybe a 10-year period where I'm traveling around. I'm the Laughingman. Yeah, I would go, stay up in the Appalachian Mountains and work somewhere, North Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, stay at my different friends' land that have there in Tennessee or wherever. And then I'd go to Florida in the winter, and then I'd go out to wherever the national gathering was in the summertime, and all. So yeah, that's the Laughingman story. But anyway, lots more stories. I hope you guys are doing great, and talk to you next time.